welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Charlotte and I am a third and final year nursing student at AUT. And today I'm going to be talking about Anki, which is a flashcard and spaced repetition app which I use all of the time for studying in nursing school, and it's just really helped me to solidify my knowledge. So I just thought that I would be sharing with you today the ways that I use Anki, how to succeed in nursing school. So I have been using Anki since my first year of nursing school back in 2020, and it's now 2023 and I'm still using it. The way that I use Anki has definitely changed quite a lot. I remember in my first year of nursing school I put a lot of pressure on myself to use the app every single day, and I had these massive decks which had hundreds of cards, and just the volume of the flashcards in each deck made me feel really unmotivated to study. Since then I've come a long way and I've found different ways of using Anki, which has really helped me feel a lot more motivated to study, and it has also been better just in general for learning and actually retaining the knowledge. And these are what I'm going to be sharing with you today. And before we get into everything, a huge shout out to Georgia. Thank you so much for recommending this video and requesting it. If other watchers have a video that you'd like me to make, just drop a comment and I will do my best to help you and to make it. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to all of that good stuff. But for now, let's actually get to the good stuff and just dive right in. So as I was saying before, Anki is a flashcard and a spaced repetition app which you can either have on your laptop, which is how I use it, or you can also download it on your phone. Pretty much you either make your own cards, which is what I do, or you can get people to send you their cards, and I believe that you can download pre-made cards, which is really cool, but don't ask me about that because I don't know that side of Anki. I just make my own and mind my own business. And you study these cards that you have in your flashcard decks, and depending on how often you get them correct determines on how often you see the cards. So for example, if you're always getting this one card incorrect, you're always failing it, that card will appear more often than the cards that you are always getting correct. And this is because your brain has a forgetting curve, which is pretty much the amount of time between the moment that you learn something and the moment that you forget that something. And the more often that you are introduced to this information means that the gap between you knowing it and you forgetting it gets spread out, and it gets longer and longer and longer until you just know it. And that's how the spaced repetition flashcards work on Anki. That was a little bit of science, which I'm not very good at explaining, and I'm not very good at doing it in like sciencey terms. I just that's how I remember it and how I think of it. So sorry if that wasn't very helpful, but I hope it was. So the first thing that I do, which I actually still do from my first year of nursing school because it was the most efficient and really helped, is that I have one flashcard deck for each of the 11 body systems. And then I also have one deck for pharmacology, one deck for mental health, one deck for pediatrics, and one deck for nursing documents and laws such as the Code of Rights or the Declaration of Alma Ata and the Ottawa Charter. I also have a separate Anki deck for fluids and electrolytes, and a separate Anki deck for wounds, infections, and sepsis. So I have one deck for each of the main body systems, and then an extra deck for the major concepts of nursing which don't really fit into those 11 body systems. This has been really efficient because it helps me organize the information really logically. I know if I'm going to be studying COPD, then I need to go to my respiratory system deck. It just makes a lot of sense to me, and that's the first thing that I do when I'm using my Anki. Also means that when I'm making new cards, it's really easy to organize them into different topics. So for me, that's just the most efficient system, and something that I would really recommend if you're in nursing school and you're starting to use Anki. The next one that I do kind of carries on from that last point, and it's something that I only just started doing this year because I'm a bit of a grandma with technology, and I really cannot believe that I did not know how to do this for the past 2 or 3 years. It's such a lifesaver, it makes my life so much easier, is that I have subdecks for each of my flashcard decks. As I said in the intro, one of the main things that I struggled with in my first year is that I had all of these decks, and in each of these decks there were hundreds and hundreds of cards, and just it made me feel really unmotivated to study and really unmotivated to use Anki, because I was like, if I'm going to go through one flashcard deck, that's going to take me like 3 or 4 hours because of how much information there is. So I use a thing called subdecks, which means that for each flashcard deck I have a number of subtopics underneath each one. So for example, my cardiovascular system also has a subdeck for ECGs, it has a subdeck for hypertension, it has a subdeck for myocardial infarction. For my respiratory system, it has subdecks of asthma, basics of the respiratory system, COPD, respiratory assessments, a subject for everything. This is really helpful because it means that when I put on my to-do list study 5 flashcard decks on Anki, it's not going to take me 5 hours to do it. It will only take me half an hour because I've got all of these subdecks which only have, you know, maybe 10 cards in each deck. And it just means that because I'm more motivated to study them, I actually get more done. So to make a subdeck, all you have to do is make a normal deck. I'm going to use an example. I would like to make a subdeck of COPD under the respiratory system flashcard deck that I have. So in order to do this, what I would do is I would create a brand new deck just as normal and label it COPD, and then I just click on it, drag it onto respiratory assessment, release the what's it called? Mouse. And then it just instantly does it. It's so easy. I am so annoyed at myself for not knowing how to do that. You literally just drag and drop and then it creates its own subdeck. I grew up with technology, but that doesn't mean I'm good with technology. That's how you make a subdeck. It makes your life so much easier, and it's the one thing that I would really recommend that all nursing students do, because as I said before, you get so much information, and if you've got one deck with hundreds and hundreds of cards in it, it can be really overwhelming. So make subdecks. They're really easy to do, and they're super duper helpful. They make your life so much easier. The next thing that I do, and it kind of again leads on from the fact that if you're feeling unmotivated but you still have to study, how do you do it? The way that I do it is that I will set a timer for 15 minutes and I will just do as much as I can in 15 minutes. And most of the time, once I've done 15 minutes of an Anki flashcard deck, I kind of get into the groove of things. I start feeling quite proud of myself, like, oh, I know all of this stuff. And so I'll just keep on studying and, you know, get into a study groove, which can last for half an hour to a couple of hours. So set a timer for 15 minutes, do as much as you can in those 15 minutes, and then reassess how you're feeling. Because even if you're feeling exhausted and, oh, I can't do this anymore, I'm too tired to do Anki anymore, at least you've done 15 minutes of study, which is better than nothing. And it also means that you're still getting that little bit of information. So that's what I do. For my timer, I use an app called Forest, where you get to plant little trees and you earn coins for completing your set timers. So when I'm doing Forest, I will set it so that I can't access any other apps while I'm using Forest, which means that I'm not going to get distracted by something like Instagram or TikTok or, you know, Merge Mansion. And then I get coins for it, and it's a little bit fun. And then I get a cute tree at the end of it as well, which gets added to my garden, and it's just really satisfying. So I set a timer for 15 minutes using Forest, reassess how I'm feeling at the end of the 15 minutes, and most of the time I'm kind of good to keep studying. That's the third way that I use Anki. This next tip that I do is about actually creating your flashcard decks. So as I said before, you can ask people to send you their flashcards, and you can also, I think, download ready-made ones, which saves a lot of time. But it took me 3 years to figure out how to create a subdeck, so I think it's a bit of a stretch. We're not at that stage quite yet where I'm downloading pre-made Anki decks, so I just make my own. And even though it's probably not as time efficient as just downloading ready-made ones, it's still something, it still works for me. And the way that I actually create them is that when I'm in lectures or when I'm at home and I have some notes, I will jot down basic questions and basic answers using the lecture slides. So I've kind of gotten out of the habit of comprehensive note taking because it was just me copying down everything that the lecturer was already saying or already had up on the slides, and it wasn't wasn't really a very good use of my time. So what I do now is when I'm in lectures or when I'm watching a lecture, I'll have my Anki deck open on my computer, and whenever something that I need to know comes up, I will just quickly make a flashcard about it. For example, in my most recent lecture we had was on sepsis, and one of the things that we went over was the Sepsis 6 bundle, which is 6 steps or treatments that you do when a patient has sepsis or suspected sepsis. So because this is important for me to know, what I did was I put in what is the Sepsis 6 bundle for adults and pediatrics and my flashcard question, and then in the answer I just quickly jotted down the Sepsis 6 bundle. So that's what I recommend doing. Instead of taking notes, instead take Anki flashcards. Whenever something interesting comes up in your lectures, make it a question, make it a practice question, make it an Anki flashcard. You'll save yourself so much time, because what I used to do in my first year was I'd make all these notes and I'd go home and then I'd turn them into Anki flashcards, but then I would never end up using the notes and I would just end up using the flashcards. So I could have saved myself all of that time at home, which I could have been using for studying, if I had just made the flashcard notes in my lecture. So that's like the 4th or 5th thing that I do that I recommend that you do if you're using Anki. The final thing that I do when I'm using Anki and how I study Anki is that I use a whiteboard and whiteboard markers to write down my answers, because this means that I can erase everything really easily to refresh for the next question. This is also something that I've done since my first year because it's just efficient and it works best for me. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just write down your answers on the whiteboard. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So yeah, there's not really much more to it. So those are all of the things that I do when I'm using Anki, and those are all the things of how I use Anki. So I hope that you guys found that helpful and interesting, and maybe you are like me and you just learned how to use a subdeck. So that was today's video. Once again, a big thank you to Georgia for requesting this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all of that good stuff. I will see you next Monday with a new video, but until then, don't forget to have a lovely day and a fabulous week. Bye!
It's rated X. That means you're extra, extra.